Now let's explore the out-of-touch, in-the-bubble world of Nigerian politics through the eyes of those who see this country impartially, even as its people grapple with the crushing weight of innumerable challenges. In a world in which it can be said that many people believe that Nigerian politicians are in it for themselves and far less believe that they are in it for the country, is it likely to be any different in 2023? And if it is likely to be more of the same as the campaign season and the general elections draw near, how do we fix this all-important connection between Nigerian voters and those they elect for the sake of the country and democracy before it is too late? Or is it already too late? Well, for answers, let's turn to someone who has consistently tried to come down straight and unvarnished on the side of the people. The public policy expert, current affairs guru, and former executive secretary of Nigeria's National Health Insurance Scheme, Professor Usman Yusuf, and he joins me now in the studio. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you very much.
We've been trying to have you here for a while, but I know you've got a lot of things to do, and we appreciate the time that you've taken.
Thank you for having me.
Let's start with the nettlesome questions, because during one of your recent assessments of the security situation in Nigeria, you warned that militant terror groups such as Boko Haram and ISWAP in the northeast must never be allowed to link up with bandits in the northwest, because you said such a marriage would be lethal for this country. Do you think those links between them have strengthened? If so, what are the implications for Nigeria as elections approach?
Right, so I and Sheikh Gumi, we've been to forests in 8 northern states in this country, 5 in the northwest and 3 in the north central. We're all physicians, and many members of the group are either retired civil servants, or the reason is this country has given us a lot more than we've given back. We're all physicians. There is this Prime Minister of France during the First World War that said, war is too important to be left to the generals. So politics is too important to be left to these people that call themselves politicians. We are where we are today because of the failings of our politics and our politicians, period. All across the 6 geopolitical zones, all the zones are on fire. Northeast, Boko Haram. Northwest, North Central, you have bandits. Southeast, you have IPOP. South, you have pirates, you have cultists. Southwest, you have armed robbers, you have cultists all across this country. It is not the military that created this mess. It is politicians that created all this mess. The military is called in to clean up their mess, and they can't. Why? Because our military is overstretched, deployed in literally all the 36 states of this country. The tour of duty of a soldier in one post is how many months, years that gets into his head? We don't have enough boots on the ground. If you don't have boots on the ground, you cannot fight this fight. All right, so now when this government came in, the biggest problem was Boko Haram. And you like this government or not, you have to give it credit for what it has done in the northeast. Boko Haram was in control of many local governments. But today we can say all the local governments are back in the hands of federal authority. But it's not over yet. And then we have this bubbling of bandits and Boko Haram, bandits all over, you have IPOP. So I will speak for banditry, that which I know, that which I've invested 3 years of my life in this. Why? Because it is personal to me. I'm from Katsina. 13 out of the 34 local governments in Katsina State are under siege by bandits. Before this government came in, we'd never seen IDPs. We used to associate IDPs with the Northeast. Now our state capital is filling up as an IDP camp. I have been there. I have met bandits. I have met Boko Haram terrorists. I have met victims. So I'm not talking some abstract thing from the studio or from my office. We've had stories, horror stories, that make us shed tears. And here we are, our politicians are interested only in what? Oh, Muslim ticket, e-naira, da. Totally disconnected from the realities of our people. Disconnected from realities of our people. How many of our politicians have been to IDP camps? How many of our ministers have been there? And you ask yourself a question, how many of our governors, all the 36 governors, after they finish their 8-year term, will retire and live in the state? How many? Probably less than a handful. I mean, our politics is what brought us into this. Banditry, I've said it again and I will say it again, is a social problem brought about by politicians.
Now, you mentioned the fact that when this government came in 2015, they did address the problem of Boko Haram in the northeast. But broadly speaking, do you think that Nigeria has less capability now to monitor and suppress the development of these groups?
I will tell you the first thing. The very first thing is that the government does not understand it. It's not me. The president himself said as much when he visited the palace of the Sultan of Sokoto. He said of all the conflicts in this country, it is this banditry he doesn't understand. He says, same people, same religion, same culture. I was sitting with my wife, she said, this is the problem. If you do not understand something, how can you solve it? I'm a doctor. If you do not have a diagnosis, how do you write a script? What are your orders to your military commanders if you don't understand it? How do you define success? Why do you not understand it? What has your security team been doing? Not explaining to you what all this is about. And I say this is the solution too. You understand the problem, you will find solution.
And does it hurt more because you're from the same place
Absolutely.
the president comes
we
from,
all know.
Katsina?
We all know. Look, banditry started in Zamfara. Everything about banditry, you connect it back to Zamfara. It's like a sprinkler in your lawn. You put it on and it's all over. The tap is in Zamfara. And I tell people, I'm an oncologist. The primary of the cancer is in Zamfara. It has spread all over. And what we are doing, in medicine you call the spread metastasis. What we are doing is we are following the meds instead of going on
the core.
Solving the problem in Zamfara. If we do not solve the problem in Zamfara, banditry will not end. So the first thing is understanding it. You don't understand it, you don't want to understand it, then what are you doing? Throwing bombs here and there. When I've said it, there is a role for the military in banditry, but there's not going to be a military solution to banditry. If anybody tells you there will be, either he doesn't understand it or he knows it and he's been disingenuous. Because never in the history of warfare, never, have conflicts like this been won on the battlefield. And the military will tell you, the people in the military that understand this will tell you the role of the military is to provide an enabling environment for dialogue and peace to happen.
So how do you think it can be handled?
And I have friends who have risen to the highest level of the military. Highest level of the military. They will tell me, this is the worst kind of war for any soldier to fight. Fighting your own people. Fight your own people. If you send soldiers to Zamfara, there are Fulanis. If you send soldiers to Imo, there are Igbos. If you send soldiers to Maiduguri, there are... this is not what they are trained for. Politicians need to settle down, provide leadership, understand it, address it. All problems are local. Solutions are local.
When you say local, what do you mean?
I will tell you.
Yeah.
Banditry, we've been to all of this before it has morphed. It's been morphing into criminality, into an alliance between bandits and Boko Haram, which is more lethal. The original banditry, which can still be solved, the problem, you go back to Zamfara, from the very 1999, that was the very beginning, when all their pastures, all their lands were taken and sold to people, and then there was a fight between locals, and then they're everywhere, everywhere. And I ask myself, I am Fulani, we have folks in the forest. We've lived for generations all across this country. You find Fulanis in Igbo land, they don't speak Hausa, they speak only Igbo and Fulani. They adapt wherever they go and live peacefully. What has happened over the years that Fulanis are fighting Hausa, Fulanis are fighting Gwari, Fulanis are fighting Yorubas, Fulanis are fighting this, Fulanis. What is the problem? Nobody wants to understand it. We have to ask ourselves the very, very fundamental questions. Where are we where we are today? And another thing we found out is that all across the 6 geopolitical zone, elders have lost control of their youth. That is why today Kanuri youth, Boko Haram, Fulani youth, our youth are bandits. Igbo youth, they never saw the civil war. They never saw the sufferings of their people. Want to break this country up again. Igboho, when was he born? So all across this country, we saw that in Lagos during NSAS, there was not a single elder that could call this youth to order when they ransacked the palace of the Oba and burnt the whole place. We are losing control of our youth, and every elder must come in and do his part in his area, and that is where we are doing our part.
I have to say your analysis is just absolutely fascinating. And in that regard, I imagine that for people like you who come from the Northwest and other people from the Northeast and other parts of Nigeria, peace and security are obviously greater priorities at the moment than the right to vote or hold elections.
Good. And how can there be any election without security? How can there be any election? Oh yeah, there will be elections and INEC will declare a winner, but are these elections going to be credible? When 13 local governments you go to Zamfara, how can you hold credible election there? You go to Bindungwari, where Ansaru, the governor himself, Ansaru, they are planting their flags. How can there be a credible election? You go to Niger State, you go to Eastern Sokoto, you go to the Southeast. Yes, there will be elections. How can there be credible elections? What we need is security. And I've said it before, again and again. The Northwest, we are not going to accept the kind of election they had in the Northeast where senators and members of House of Reps were elected in IDP camps. Oh, this is Monguno, line up. This is Bama, line up. This is, no. We want the government to secure this country, allow our people to go back home, to their homes, to their farms, to their lands, to their people, instead of IDP camps. Security, I said it, security, security, security. And I tell politicians, without security, 2023 election will just be a bridge too far.
But just assuming, because again, I think people watching you would be, I mean, absolutely, taken by your analysis there, and they would agree with the fact that security is absolutely quintessential. But let us assume that there is some measure of security. As you go back, I presume, reasonably far in observing and following Nigerian politics, I wonder how much you feel attitudes have changed and awareness has changed around Nigeria about just how important this election is, given the things that you were talking about, putting the right people in.
Right. So I go back home and I also go around the country and speak to youth. I go back home, I sit down, and the youth come to me and say, Rankedede, why should we vote? Why should we even register to vote? And I ask them why. They say, well, last time we voted our son. We gave him 1.2 million votes. Lagos State gave him half of that, 600,000. What do we have to show for that in Katana? A third of my state is under siege. Our cattle rustle. Our women rape. Women cannot sleep at home in the villages. You go to many of the villages, You pull up 1,000 naira and go to the village square and ask for change. Nobody can give you change because nobody has it. People are suffering. There is poverty, there is hunger, there is so much apathy.
But that's
what I tell them.
That's another incentive for
what
people
I tell
to actually
them, absolutely.
vote,
and
it?
You and I need to, because there is so much mistrust. Politicians, they vote them in, they don't come back. And I tell them, this time more than ever before, this election is more important than 2015 or 2019.
Do you think that for the younger generation today, just picking up from what you were saying, there's almost a sort of resigned pragmatism in the realization that they're going to have to pick this country up and essentially repair it, given everything that the generations in front of them have done?
And I tell youth wherever I go, nations are built by youth, not the aged.
Absolutely.
All over the world. And you have what it takes. These politicians will come back to you. What does it take? It's your number. Your PVC is more powerful than AK-47 or AK-49. You can change any government. You brought this government in. All over the world, Obama was brought in by youth. All over the world, I was in the United States. Youth have more power than they think they do. And that power is their PVC in a democracy.
I must get to this before we have to finish the chat. What's your assessment of the presidential candidates that you've seen so far? Are there any that you think you might support? And if so, who might that be, or what kind of candidate might that be?
Good. And I will say this. Out of the four in the major parties, PDP, APC, NNPP, and Labour Party, they are the four main contenders. All the four of them. Kwankwaso, Atiku, Ashwaju, Bola Tinubu, and Peter Obi, they are all honorable men. They have given their whole to this country. They have given where you and I have not, and continue to. They're all honorable men. But if we look at party by party, Kwankwaso grassroots mobilizer, the Madugu Pepia, right? You go to Kano, that's Kwankwaso. You see what he's done. You see his ability to mobilize. And you see what he's done over the last couple of months to bring up this party. And you see his outreach. He's a great contender, but not this time. He will not win this election because his reach is not far and wide. The crafters of this constitution are good, wise men that you have to have a spread. Even if you get 100% of a place, if you don't have the spread. So, Kwankwaso, good, decent, great mobilizer, great politician, is not there yet. Peter Obi. Peter Obi is a movement. We've never seen that in the Southeast or in the South. A single person mobilizing them, obedient. And I'm very happy. You know why I'm happy? Since Obedient came on board, the agitation for secession, the violence has quietened down. So we have a politician that is able to bring this youth, agitated youth, into the mainstream of politics. Let them see there is hope. This is wonderful, truly is. And is he going to win this election? Not likely. Bola Ahmed Tinubu, I mean, what can I say about the Asuwaju himself? See what he's done in Lagos. For the last 23 years, he's straddled the politics of Lagos and the Southwest. Great tactician, mobilizer of people around him, great mentor. But I have issues with not only him, but his party. The Muslim ticket. And I wrote in a paper that was published in Daily Trust.
I saw your article.
Yeah, it's neither for God nor country, but for self. It's a lopsided ticket. It's not natural. And it's a replication of what happened in 1992, 1993. Abiola, Kinkibe ticket, that they won the election, handily too. It's a replication. This was 30 years ago. So let's do the math. Anyone who is 30 and under never saw that ticket, right? Let's assume you're 40. You were 10 years old then, so you didn't remember it. So the summary is anybody who is 40 and below did not remember that memorable ticket. And Nigeria of 30 years ago has changed. Go on social media and see how virulent, how poisoned our kids are. And politicians have a lot to do with this. They have poisoned these kids now. We are talking about, oh, this and that, we're a caliphate here, oh, Biafra there, or Yoruba nation. Politicians, instead of using our diversity to bring us together, they've used that to break us apart. So the Muslim ticket is unnatural, is lopsided, and has alienated a very large and important chunk of our population, which are the Christians. In all our scriptures enjoin us to do adultery. Adultery is fairness, equity, and justice. There are a substantial population that you're giving out for your calculation. Well, and I said it, the people that did all the calculation, the Northern Governors Forum, they didn't do that because they love God, Jesus Christ, Moses, or Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. They did it because they were waiting, if he wins, they will be one. And there is a group I didn't know existed, the APC Christian group. I didn't know that group existed. All of a sudden they sprung up. Oh, they were the ones, incidentally, in the vanguard of Ashwaju being, their calculation is if he is the Southwestern candidate, a Muslim, if he wins, oh, then in the North he will pick a Christian and to be one of us. So none of them did what they were doing for God, Jesus Christ,
right.
Moses or Muhammad. They did it for
So from your analysis then, that leaves one candidate.
Right, but of course, I have no doubt the candidate I will support, and I will say it today. The candidate I will support and vigorously campaign for is Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, former Vice President, the Waziri of Adamawa. This is my reason. This time more than ever before, Nigeria needs somebody. We don't need a rookie. Somebody who's been there. Somebody who's been in the trenches. This bus is in a ditch. We don't want a rookie. We want somebody who's been there, somebody who is courageous, somebody who knows what to do, somebody who is a unifier, somebody who knows how to listen. I've engaged him. He listens. And he is open to superior argument. The main criticism of this president is he does not listen. If you do not listen to wise counsel, if you do not listen to people, you'll have problems. So, Alhaji Abubakar Atiku, in my opinion, is the candidate who will take us through 2023. We need somebody who is strong, somebody who is healthy, somebody who's been there before, somebody who can do it. And Atiku Abubakar is the one.
Well, on that note, I'm sure Mr. Atiku Abubakar is dancing in his bedroom at the moment if he heard you talking about him this way. And I have to say, I myself am dancing in my shoes, not for Atiku, but for the brilliant analysis you gave us this evening. And I am deeply appreciative of the fact that you came on. It took a while to get you on, but I think it was well worth it. Professor Usman Yusuf is the public policy expert, current affairs guru, and former executive secretary of Nigeria's National Health Insurance Scheme. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you very much for having me.